Hello and a very warm welcome to Dyfi Plants. It finally feels official because there is a polytunnel, a big polytunnel as you can see, and this is going to be the kind of the heart of it, the core propagation space. Now this has been about 14 years in the making. So let me explain, a bit of a story. What got me into growing food was propagation. I used to propagate cuttings like black currants, red currants, etc., different soft fruit, and sell them at a couple of local markets when I was about 10 years old or so. And then at the age of 12, I was inspired by a friend of mine, Ben, who was making gaming videos on YouTube, and I thought, you know what? I'll make a YouTube channel, but I'm not going to do gaming, I'll do gardening. And I always wanted to create a nursery. So I called it Hugh's Nursery, and all of the videos on that channel, which is now my main gardening channel, they're all still up there. I'm standing there with my flask of coffee, I'm trying to look happy. So if you want, you can go back and have a look, have a bit of a chuckle at like 12-year-old Hugh talking about propagating various different things, but that was really where my love for it started. Then this idea, moving forwards, is something that has kind of been back in the back of my mind for a couple of years. And two things I think in particular really made me think, you know what, let's do a nursery. And it's so nice because it feels like it's coming back full circle. The first one was I saw a video, I believe, by Jeff Lawton, and he spoke about how every garden, homestead, small holding should have their own mini nursery. Not so much for selling plants, but for always raising plants, because plants are pretty expensive, and especially if you've got one plant that you like and you want another 20 of them, buying 20 plants of something is quite expensive. So he said, if you create your own little nursery, even if it's like part of your polytunnel or a bed outside full of cuttings, then you are creating a yield or an asset that gives you the opportunity to either plant out into your landscape or into your gardens, or it gives you something that you can swap and you can barter with, or if you wanted to, you could sell a bit and then it will cover your seed expenses, or maybe you could sell some of those plants to get something that you don't currently grow. So that was one of the core things. The other core thing is that I've been struggling to source a lot of things that I want, and the big kind of goal for Dyfi Plants is to provide useful and unusual plants for resilient edible landscaping. So edible landscaping could be a small back garden, it could be an allotment, it could be a field. It's going to be kind of small to medium-sized projects, but there's a lot of things that are really hard to come by, like certain types of perennial vegetables in particular, like different tubers, like mashua, for example. It was a video that Sam did, my colleague Sam Cooper, about mashua, and people were just like, where can we get this? And there's basically nowhere else to get it. So there is this demand and people are wanting perennials, they're resilient. So I just spoke to Sam and I was just like, let's just create it. Let's create a plant nursery. And so this is kind of the defining, this polytunnel, kind of the defining factor. We're on a slope here. It's a 7-acre site and there's no flat ground. The only flat ground that we have is artificial, i.e. it's been made by a digger. And so I phoned up my friends at First Tunnels. I was like, I need a polytunnel this size, got a quote, agreed, booked it in. Then the digger guy didn't turn up, so we had to last minute find someone else who did and saved the day. And then we built this polytunnel, which is about 7.5 by 18.5 meters, or 24 foot by 60 foot. So it's a big space, and this is going to be absolutely full of plants. So for those of you that are like, what on earth is Dyfi Plants? What's happening here on this site? We're here in Midwest Wales, about 10 minutes north of Aberystwyth. We're a mile away from the sea, though this bottom part is a little bit sheltered. And this is a space that is kind of a permaculture experimental site. So there's numerous different gardens and planting projects around here, including where we created the self-sufficiency garden, which ended up becoming a Sunday Times best-selling book. And it's just for people to kind of see how powerful plants are and how cool they are. And I think, like, what I'm so excited about this channel is I thought, we could document the process of creating a permaculture plant nursery effectively from scratch. And that's what I want to do. I want to document how it goes, so can look back and you guys can learn from mistakes if you want to create a plant nursery. Because one thing is definite, there are not enough small scale plant nurseries providing high quality edible plants, particularly perennials. We need loads more of them. Ideally, we need a network of them across the UK in order to keep up with demand. And so hopefully through this I can inspire other projects to happen and show you some of the pitfalls so you don't have to learn the same mistakes. But it's also going to be showing tips, different kind of things, kind of an amalgamation of going deep into plant varieties, going deep into propagation, going into how to create like a micro nursery if you only have 10 square meters, how to build particular things like heated propagation benches. It's going to be a huge amount of fun. So, a very warm welcome to this journey, and Will is behind the camera, he's in charge of this channel, and I basically told Will, I was like, we need to get the first video out, the polytunnel's done, there's no excuse now, I'm doing a lot of sowing this weekend, so stay tuned, it's going to be a wild ride.